Hi, everybody. Tim Hughes here. I'm the co-founder and CEO of DLA Ignite. With me today, I've got Howard Tiersky, and we're here to talk about his new book, which is Winning Digital Customers, The Antidote to Irrelevance, which sounds pretty cool to me, Howard. But before we go anywhere, where can people get hold of you?
Well, they can go to the book website, which is at winningdigitalcustomers.com, or they can find me on LinkedIn.
Show us the book, Howard. Come on, give us.
Sure. Here's the book, Winning Digital Customers.
There we go, look.
I'll move my hand so you can see my name. And it's available in Kindle right now on Amazon and other places, ebooks and other places. And the hardcover book comes out in January.
Right. And you were telling me that it got onto the Wall Street Journal bestseller list for nonfiction. You were number 2.
Yes, indeed.
And you were the 14th most sold book on Amazon, again, nonfiction.
Yeah, very grateful. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. You must be so proud.
Yeah, we're very proud of it. You know, I'm proud of the book in any case. I think, you know, a lot of people worked on it. Actually, my name's on it, but we have a whole team of people that, well, frankly, have been developing all these tactics for how do you help large enterprises drive the kind of change that's necessary to be relevant in like today's digital world. So this is a combination of work that my whole team's done for more than a decade, actually, not to mention all the work to put it all together in a book and everything. But yeah, I think I'm really pleased with how it came out. And I'm, of course, super gratified that a lot of people are buying it.
And is that so? What was why did you go about writing it, and why did the team go about writing it? Was it because you're just looking out there and there just isn't the strategies for the digital transformation?
Well, yeah, you know, I think a couple things. There's a lot of books out there that touch on different things that this book is about, but you know, I felt that we could bring something new to the market here. First of all, this book is really a step-by-step guide. I'm a very practical person. This is not an academic book. You know, my career has been working with many of the world's largest brands and how they really get this stuff done in terms of, you know, really understanding the needs of the customer, really optimizing digital properties, dealing with the politics of large organizations, the challenges of getting funding, the challenges of sustaining investment over time, really just in the trenches stuff. And so there's a lot of great books out there that I really respect and have read and learned a lot from. I feel like what this book is it's a practical guide, and it's filled with examples. There's over 100 examples in the book of specific initiatives that we've been a part of where we explain specific challenges and problems. It's not the pure theoretical stuff. It's like, well, you know, you hit this kind of problem. What should you do about it? And it's got a lot of step-by-step stuff as well. So I think that makes it stand out a little bit and provide something a little different from other books that may be out there talking about some similar concepts. And also that I think we bring this idea of customer love is really central. What I've, after many years in this, really come to believe, to synthesize it down to one core idea. It's the businesses that are successful are the ones that figure out how to get their customers to really love them. Those are the brands.
I agree, yes.
And so then how do you do that, right? Because it sounds like mysterious, you know, like love, you couldn't create it. But in fact, there's a formula. In fact, if you know, and it's not that we, you know, used a cauldron and some sort of, you know, magical method to figure it out. It's just that we've done this for so many years. So we sort of figured out that actually there's patterns and there's formulas to this stuff. And that's what we try to put down in the book.
And you share that in the book, do you?
Yes. We talk about why it's so critical to have customers really love your brand and the fact that it drives much higher revenue, profit, growth, stock performance. And we give a lot of examples of that. And then we talk about what do we really mean by that, by loving, you know, because love can mean a lot of things, right? You know, I love my wife and I love my Ford Mustang, you know, but not in the same way, you know. And likewise, people love Starbucks and they love Disney and they love Nike. And that's a little different kind of love, but it's a kind of a passion that they typically don't have for their bank. They probably don't have for their insurance company, although there are exceptions. They might not have for their airline, although there are exceptions. And so what is it about the brands that causes that kind of emotional connection with customers? And so, yes, in the book, we talk about the 3 key components, the formula, if you will, for achieving that level of love. And then once you understand the components, it still begs the question, but how do I actually do them? How do I? And then the book provides a 5-step methodology we call the customer love digital transformation formula for how you methodically go about. It sounds kind of like a cold, like how do you methodically create love? But you know what? The truth is there is a formula for it, and that's what we go through in the book.
Right. I mean, I really love the fact that it's practical. I mean, on the first book I wrote we designed it as a guide. We wanted it to be something that somebody would carry around with them. And you'd see people, and I do see people show me where they've gone and highlighted things, and it's got tickers, or post-it notes in it and stuff like that. And for me, I've read an awful lot of sales and marketing books, and a lot of them basically sit in an ivory tower. And I do, you've got to be in a situation where you're sharing case studies, because people need to visualize what's going on. So I love that.
Yeah. Isn't it awesome when you see stuff that's highlighted? After that's one thing I love about the Kindle. I think it's too soon. This book just came out a few weeks ago, but my first book, which has been out, I don't know, maybe almost a year, on a different topic. I love going in to the Kindle version and seeing like a passage be like 63 people highlighted this. You know how the Kindle will show you that? That's so cool. I'm like, oh, wow. And sometimes I'm surprised. I'm like, 63 people highlighted that? But what about the other thing? That was so much better. They highlighted that, but there's something to be learned from that. That's one of the beauties of ebooks, is to actually be able to see what people are reading, to some degree anyway, and what they're highlighting. I love that.
So you've got a 5-step recipe for digital transformation.
Yeah.
So why don't you walk us through those 5 steps over the next 15 minutes or so? Sure,
absolutely. Well, let me start by saying, one of the things that we say to create customer love, there's kind of 3 key ingredients. And I just want to mention those briefly because the 5 steps make even more sense in light of what you're trying to do with those 3 ingredients. So 3 ingredients, the first baseline ingredient is to consistently and reliably meet the needs of your customer. Every business is in business to address some kind of customer need. Of course, not all of their customers' needs, and to do that in a consistent and reliable way. Now, that's table stakes, right? But if you don't do that, you will not have customer love no matter what else you do. And emotionally, what that says to the customer is, this brand gets me. They understand my needs because they're there and they're meeting them. The second level is to provide occasional delight. You don't have to do it all the time, but periodically do something extra, do something special, and above and beyond expectations. And that tells the customer they care about me. They didn't just do what they had to do to get my money. They went above and beyond and they did something extra special. Think about a time when a brand did something that you didn't expect. They offered you something that they didn't have to. That really gives a lot of extra kind of emotional juice to the relationship. And the last is an alignment of values, that the brand stands for something that is meaningful to you as a customer. And of course, that doesn't mean it has to be meaningful to everyone on the planet, but just to your customers. So there are some brands that have a very strong sort of social political stance, like a Ben and Jerry's or a Whole Foods.
Nike.
Absolutely. Well, Nike's a great example because that's a relatively recent thing, right? And they took a strong social stand on Black Lives Matter. And the day after they did it, their stock went down, right? And everyone said, oh no, they're going to alienate half their audience, right, by taking this social stand. And by the way, they did alienate some people. There were people posting, I'll never buy a Nike shoe,
But the Nike thing was a bit like the Beatles when they said they were bigger than God. They actually sold more records because people bought them to burn them. And people were buying Nike sneakers, as you would call them, to burn them.
I see. I didn't know about that part, but I'm guessing that their long-term growth was not primarily due to the purchase to burn.
They've either doubled or they grew their sales by 50%.
Right. It's been huge.
Some massive number, yeah.
And putting aside the burning people, it probably was, I think what it is that when you really are meaningful to a segment, that the impact, and that goes to the point of love. If you can get, a third of the people to love you, it's much better than everybody thinking that you're fine. The actual business impact is double. You're going to get a much more passion. You're going to be able to have price premiums. They're going to buy more often. They're going to talk about you more. So that's what Nike proved. And by the way, not only with sort of, let's call it left leading, look at someone like a Chick-fil-A, right? There's others that have taken social stands that I absolutely disagree with. There's a Chick-fil-A, for example, that opened near us, and they have great chicken at Chick-fil-A. I know from years ago but we won't go there because of the social stand that they've taken. But it has grown their business. It has grown their business because they have a very right-leaning social stand, and there's enough people for whom that resonates. So from a pure business perspective, not a personal political perspective, I have to acknowledge that this was a successful strategy for them. The problem is that most brands don't stand for anything at all,
Yeah.
and so they miss that opportunity. So I wanted to just give you that recipe, and we talk, of course, about it in more depth in the book, because it start, and by the way, you can sort of test out that recipe yourself. Think about the brands that you love and kind of go, is that right? Or you know what? Even think about the people you love. I think that it applies across many things. So if that's what you're trying to do, it kind of begs a lot of questions. Well, what are my customers' needs that I have to meet? At what level? What would delight them? What are their values? Like all of a sudden it starts to ask a lot of questions. Like it sounds, I don't know if it sounds easy or not, but it sounds simple, right? To say, well, meet their needs. But how do I even know if I'm meeting their needs or where I'm falling down? The truth is that many companies have many areas of their customer experience that are not meeting their customers' expectations, and it's not even on their radar. And the reason I know that is because we often get brought in to help companies improve their revenue, for example, from their digital channels. And we go out and have a whole methodology to study that. And then we come back to the company and say, these are specific points of pain your customers are experiencing. And inevitably, some of them, they go, oh, yeah, we know. But others are like, really? We didn't even know that was a concern or a problem. And we're like, yeah, it's really holding you back. So when you look at the 5 steps, the customer love digital transformation formula, the first is understand your customer. Really make sure you're clear on, first of all, who is the customer you're going after? Because like we said earlier, you're not trying to be everything to all people. That's not a successful strategy. Who are you really going after? What is the segment of customers that should matter to you? And then what matters to them? What are their hopes, dreams, aspirations? What are their points of pain? What are their unmet needs? So that's the whole first section of the book, is about understanding that. And then the second step is map the customer journey.
Right.
Which ultimately is meant to define what is the future state experience that if you provided it to them, you would be achieving all those levels of the pyramid. You would be completely resonating with their needs. Not what's the smallest step from where I am now to improve, but rather what's the vision, even if it's ambitious. But in order to get there, there's a step that we do before the future vision, which is the current state journey mapping. So the first step is to understand the customer, but in the second step, the first thing is to understand what are they really experiencing today? And that goes to what we were saying earlier, is really making sure you're clear on all the challenges and problems they're having, because so often they're not all well understood. There's a story I tell in the book where at one point we were working for a large vacation resort destination, and we were asked to improve the booking process. And so we came in and we had done a whole current analysis, and we understood where the current pains were. But we had an opportunity to present to the CEO and the head of the board of directors, actually, as well. And we were told, listen, this is a meeting, many topics. You've got 20 minutes. Keep it tight. So we made a decision, bad decision. We're just going to talk about the future vision. We're going to come in and we're going to say, this is the vision of the future. And we laid out the vision of how the whole process should work and how you could search across different resorts and find your room and book it. And if you want to make a change, you could change it later. You could adjust it, all this kind of stuff. And we got to the end of the presentation, and the CEO said, well, of course, it sounds great, but isn't this pretty much how it works today? And we were like, no, and kind of realizing, like, have you ever tried to book a room at your resort online? And of course, the answer is no. Why would he do that? So it becomes really important for many reasons, including just for communications and creating a burning platform, to make sure you're really clear on what the challenges of today, and then creating that future vision. And then the third step is to build it, right? And we describe in the book a whole process that we base on design thinking. Because just because you have a vision of something doesn't mean you have the nitty-gritty details of the requirements and the user experience and the technology and how you're going to implement it. Because many things are a good idea in general, and they fail in the details of their implementation. So how do you actually, product by product, platform by platform, actually bring that vision to life in a way that will be successful with customers? And then the fourth is optimizing the short term. Because one of the challenges that this didn't take a long time, to do the research doesn't take that long, but to create the vision, that takes some time. But then to actually fulfill a vision, these are usually multi-year processes, and sometimes many years to get where you really need to go if you're talking about a large enterprise. Yeah. And oftentimes there's a lot of impatience by the stakeholders. When's the money going to come in? impatience by your customers. When are you going to get better? And so you need a parallel track that's saying, okay, what can we fix now? Where are we letting people down? You know, as they say, low-hanging fruit, right? What stuff
quick wins, yeah.
Quick wins, absolutely.
Yeah.
So the way you find those quick wins is not necessarily exactly the same as how you create a bold, ambitious vision for the future. And you need to be doing both. And some people only focus on the quick wins and they never get to the bold, ambitious vision. And that's a mistake because you can never really transform. And some people focus on huge transformational stuff and they're not fixing the quick wins because they just want to focus on. But the problem is when you just focus on the stuff that's going to take a few years to get there, you're not meeting the people's sort of impatience.
Yes.
So we talk about a bunch of specific tactics and techniques. You know, there's places where we've reliably found, it's kind of like I was watching my son play a video game the other day. I'm trying to remember what video game it was, but he was telling me whenever you're looking for extra food, it's a video game where like if your health goes down, like you get in a battle and you need to find food, he goes, there's almost always some behind the trees. Just look behind the trees. There's almost always some food, right? So he's learned this. And we've learned that, in a digital experience, there's certain places that you can almost always look and find problems that you can fix quickly. Places to go to quickly. Now, not every tree has food behind it in my son's game, but many do. So we talk in the book about a bunch of things to look for that are quite possibly trees with food hidden behind them. And then the last section of the book is about leading transformation. And we really debated about putting it last because, of course, you don't do it last. It starts with leadership, being able to drive that kind of change because you have massive amounts of resistance to change in most organizations to this level of transformation. And there's all kinds of challenges to building and structuring teams. But we felt it was better to lay out what is all the stuff you have to do and then end with, okay, now what kind of a leader do you need to be? How do you need to build the case for this whole set of things you need to do? Because it's substantial. And so that's the last section of the book is all about leadership, organizational resistance to change, pitching digital transformation, and really how to be able to lead the transformation. And those are the 5 steps.
And in terms of that leadership of the change, I was having a conversation before I came on here before. We're working with a particular client, and the whole of the management team is saying, "Oh, we're too busy for this."
Well,
and it's like you won't change because the leaders are going to stand there at the front and go, "Follow me."
Yeah. Well, you have to always be careful of unreferenced pronouns. If someone says they're too busy for this, I would say, what is this? What is the this that we're too busy for? Because, hey, listen, when you're running a company, you have to prioritize. So if someone says they're too busy for this, they're saying it's not as important as other things. So it would make me think that they're not thinking about what this really is. Because what is this? This is how do we make our business relevant to today's consumer so that we can deliver the best possible returns, profitability, and growth and returns for our shareholders. If you said to a CEO, are you too busy for that? I don't think too many CEOs would say they're too busy for that. But if it's perceived as, ways to make the customer experience more pleasant for the customer, some CEOs may say, sounds nice, but listen, we're busy. And in the priority of things, that can't be our focus right now. We've got to focus on the bottom line, which means, and this is part of what we talk about in the book, by the way, we talk about the strategic customer experience formula. And what it is simply a way of explaining how experience connects to money.
Right.
Because you have to be able to make the case why, if I make this experience better for my customer, that drives revenue and profitability. There have been many studies that correlate them. Forrester and others do many studies that show this, but even that sometimes is not enough because correlation doesn't always prove causality. But there are logical arguments that are laid out in the book to show how essentially, positive business results are driven mainly, not exclusively, but mainly by one thing, which is customer behavior.
Yeah.
If you can get your customers to do what you want them to do, you're going to be in great shape. There's some other things you want to organize or optimize your supply chain. And there's other things. But you know what? If your customers aren't doing what you want them to do, none of that other stuff matters. And if they are, it'll give you the slack to make a lot of mistakes in those other areas and you'll still be super successful, right? Yep. So then the question is, well, what drives customer behavior? Because if you believe what I just said, then customer behavior is very important to the bottom line. well, what drives customer behavior? Well, we talk about this in detail in the book, but essentially thoughts and feelings. Why do we do what we do? Only because of what we think and feel. Mm-hmm. And so then where do our thoughts and feelings come from? From our experiences. That's what creates our thoughts. So if you understand that sequence, then you realize that the experiences that I give a customer or that I inspire for the customer, for example, if someone writes a review, that's another experience the customer has, or the experience they have when they walk into the store, the experience on the website, or whatever it may be, is playing a major role in this sequence, which ultimately leads to your business results. And so all of a sudden, getting the experience right becomes arguably the most important thing you can do in driving profitability. And once a CEO or a board, once they believe that, then there's nothing else they have time for more than this.
Howard, it's been fantastic. Thank you so much for your insight. Can you show your book again so people can?
Book is Winning Digital Customers. It's available, of course, on Amazon and most places where you buy a book. You can also go to winningdigitalcustomers.com where you can learn more about the book. You can actually download the first chapter for free there if you'd like. There's links to buy the book and more information about the book and contact information for us as well.
Right. And if anyone wants to contact you, the best place is?
Yeah, they can do it at winningdigitalcustomers.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn. Just look for Howard Tiersky, and I am a good responder to my LinkedIn messages. Feel free to follow me there. I'm also on other social platforms, but my preferred is LinkedIn.
Perfect. Howard, it's been insightful. I love the way that you've basically written this in a practical steps. Yeah. And for me, it's very logical. And the fact that you actually you're using case studies as well. As I said before, it's so important for people, the reader, to basically visualize it. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And have a great day.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks, Howard. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.